Welcome to But Frankly Pierce News. I'm Arthur Fairview. Here's what we're facing. Halloween has come and gone, but there is still something frightening out there. Election Day. Political signs, TV commercials, and roadside signs have been clogging up the scenery for weeks now. All with the hope of convincing you to vote for the person with the catchiest phrase, most popularity, or the message that resonates.
I speak softly, but I carry a big stick!
Hey, that is pretty catchy.
Really?
But in our current climate, it is scarier than you think. For example, in Illinois, there are zombie newspapers.
Did he say zombie newspapers?
Like Night of the Living Print?
Since last summer, many Illinois residents have been receiving newspapers that they haven't paid for, nor, in many cases, even heard of. Each paper bears a clear-cut tagline: real data, real news.
I got a bad feeling on this one. Wait, like how? I got a bad feeling on it.
And each publication that shows up in driveways and mailboxes carries a partisan punch that's blatant, but not formally disclosed. The coverage all points in a single political direction: hard right.
That's downright nasty.
Where did they come from?
These papers were first noticed several election cycles ago, born out of the conservative Illinois Policy Institute, which crusaded against greater taxation and regulation. Since then, they have spread across the state, presenting themselves as down-home newspapers in multiple communities, with names that hark back to times before people relied on social media to find out about developments in their communities.
This morning, it is a front-page story.
This fall, readers encountering the Sangamon Sun or Chicago City Wire, or the DuPage Policy Journal, or their sister publications will find coverage uniformly beating up on the policies and persona of Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat who happens to be up for re-election. The West Cook News splashed an incendiary quote across the top of the front page recently. It's going to be literally the end of days. The two-page spread inside presented a vivid display of photographs of 36 men who were charged with violent crimes, but had not been convicted. They would all be released into Cook County's neighborhoods. The accompanying headline said, "Under legislation signed into law by Pritzker last year that eliminates cash bail."
Wait, that sounds bad.
Is that actually true?
Yes, it's true.
Actually, no. According to reporting by WBEZ and other news outlets, judges will retain discretion to determine whether people facing serious charges pose a threat. The real kicker is that all but 4 of the 36 men in the photos were people of color. The information being presented is intentionally being set up to mislead people. It looks like independent local news, but in reality, when you read the content, it's playing on people's emotions and fear.
Fear is a powerful motivator.
Yet nowhere in the publications themselves is there any disclosure of the paper's pro-Republican agenda, its source of funding, or even its point of view, except, of course, in the relentless punching of the hot-button issues for the right, including trans rights, COVID restrictions, and taxes.
More grist for the mill.
Up next, in the early morning hours of Friday, October 28th, an intruder entered through the back door of Frank and Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home yelling, "Where is Nancy?" Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, was thousands of miles away in Washington, D.C., protected by her security detail. But her husband, 82-year-old Paul Pelosi, was home. By the time police officers arrived after being dispatched at 2:27 a.m., they found the assailant, Mr. Pelosi, wrestling for control of a hammer. The intruder then pulled the hammer away and violently attacked Mr. Pelosi with it in front of officers, said William Scott, San Francisco's chief of police.
Why does this sound familiar?
Break it down! Break it down! Break it down! Break it down!
It gets worse. New reporting shows the assailant was carrying zip ties.
January 6 redo on a smaller scale.
So it would seem. Rioters in the Capitol on January 6 also had zip ties with them, and also roamed the halls looking for Speaker Pelosi and repeatedly shouting, "Nancy."
Hey, we're coming in if you don't bring her out.
Can I speak
would do such a thing?
The intruder was David DePape, one of many taken in by conspiracy theories fueled by right-wing extremist rhetoric, the big lie, and QAnon. The complex history of the accused attacker's radicalization unfolded over more than 8 years in several different ideologies, moving from Green Party support and nudist activism to a hateful mix of racist and anti-Jewish and misogynistic rhetoric, according to terrorism analysts who studied his writings and social media posts.
Lovely.
Prime example of a cockwomble.
By the time DePape broke into Pelosi's residence Friday, his writings were laden with far-right messaging that indicated a dark conspiratorial spiral. His blog posts in October were a mix of bloody images and hateful screeds aimed at a variety of targeted groups, including Jewish, Black, and trans people, as well as Democrats.
How are the Republicans handling this?
The usual way, by deflecting the narrative and using it to their advantage.
Exactly. Those details were largely ignored by right-wing figures, including Republicans and MAGA stars with millions of followers, who instead reached years back to portray him as a leftist, hemp bracelet peddling hippie, perhaps part of a false flag operation to blame the right for the assault. An alternative, unsubstantiated scenario that DePape and Paul Pelosi have a sexual relationship blazed across right-wing news outlets, boosted by high-profile figures such as Elon Musk and referenced by Republican officials.
And now Musk owns Twitter.
Yeah, waiting for the other shoe to drop on that one.
You're doomed.
But not all Republicans. Senator Ben Sasse said in a statement that every single American needs to be lowering the temperature. This is increasingly obvious. Disturbed individuals easily succumb to conspiracy theories and rage. Consequences are bloody and un-American. Minnesota Rep. Tom Emmer, the chair of House GOP campaign arm, condemned violence broadly in an interview with CBS on Sunday, but refused to commit to pulling advertisements targeting Nancy Pelosi or his controversial tweet. When he pushed about the message in that tweet, Emmer wouldn't commit to taking down the recent tweet, which included a video of him firing a gun that read, "Enjoyed exercising my Second Amendment rights. Let's #fire Pelosi," telling CBS that he disagreed that the tweet was dangerous.
Just a few days ago, where you're firing a gun and it says, "Enjoyed exercising my Second Amendment rights, #fire Pelosi." Why is there a gun in a political ad at all?
It wasn't an ad.
Hashtag
I was
or a
tweeting
tweet.
out. I was tweeting out something that I had just
#fire
done.
Pelosi with a weapon.
Well, now
Wouldn't a pink slip be more fitting if it's about firing her?
Democrats' rhetoric, people that
I'm not talking about your rhetoric. I'm talking about what you posted. You're shooting a gun. Our viewers just saw it.
Yeah, right.
#fire Pelosi.
Exercising our Second Amendment rights, having
That's
fun.
not a debate about the
shooting a
Second
gun.
Amendment.
Yeah.
That's not a debate about the Second Amendment.
Yes, it is.
#fire Pelosi.
Yes, it is. I'm
Do you
running
not
the campaign
understand that that
operation
is
for the
suggestive to
Republicans.
people who are in a bad state and in this current environment, how risky it is? As you're talking
I
about the importance of
disagree with you,
lowering the rhetoric.
I disagree with
Why do you leave that up?
Again,
When pushed regarding his mixed message of condemning violence but not pulling ads, Mr. Emmer responded in the usual way.
we've got a crime wave across this country that is
In
the
this
direct
moment,
result.
we are
that is
8
the direct
days
result.
out. Don't you think this needs to change? Why not
Again.
pull some of these ads? Why not just delete your
Well,
tweet?
I'm sure people like to talk about anything but what the Democrats have done to this country, which quite frankly is exploding cost of living, a crime wave in our major cities that is the result of this defund the police nonsense and cashless bail.
There it is again.
Deflect and reframe.
I'll say this for him, he's consistent.
Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia made this statement.
Listen, Speaker Pelosi's husband, they had a break-in last night in their house, and he was assaulted. There's no room for violence anywhere, but we're going to send her back to be with him in California. That's what we're going to go do.
Brooke Jenkins, the San Francisco district attorney, has charged the suspect with several felonies, including attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, and elder abuse. Federal prosecutors on Monday filed attempted kidnapping and assault charges against DePape, noting that in addition to the hammer allegedly used to strike Paul Pelosi, authorities recovered a roll of tape, white rope, a second hammer, a pair of rubber and cloth gloves, and zip ties.
I did. In the hall. With the revolver.
After being taken into custody and Mirandized, DePape told authorities that his plan was to hold Nancy Pelosi hostage and talk to her. If she told the truth, he would let her go, and if she lied, he would break her kneecaps. And DePape was certain she would not tell the truth. He viewed her as a leader of the pack of lies told by Democratic Party. DePape later explained that by breaking Nancy Pelosi's kneecaps, she would then have to be wheeled into Congress, which would show other members of Congress there were consequences to actions. DePape also explained generally that he wanted to use Nancy to lure another individual to DePape.
It's a trap!
And now Rhino's in the news.
Republicans in name only?
I think he's referring to the odd-toes ungulates of the family Rhinoceros.
That's easy for you to say.
Rhinoceros horns have become shorter over the last century. Researchers have found adding the development could be a result of hunters, poachers targeting larger prices. Rhino horns were much sought after among hunters over the centuries, while modern poachers sell them for use in traditional medicines in China and Vietnam. In the case of rhinos, people basically have always wanted the largest horn, said Oscar Wilson, a doctoral student and first author of the research at the University of Helsinki, adding that bigger horns will fetch modern poachers a higher price.
Do I make you horny, baby?
Wilson and colleagues say a study of archive images of the animals suggests that the size of a rhino's horn relative to its body length has decreased over time.
You mean shrinkage?
Yes!
Nope, genetics.
Correct. According to what researchers wrote in the journal People and Nature, preferential hunting selections for individuals with larger horns or tusks resulted in individuals with smaller features surviving, reproducing more, passing on these traits to future generations, and resulting in evolutionary change.
So clearly size matters.
I guess now it's scientific fact.
But that's not the point.
Not gonna say it.
Nope.
Moving on, a 78-year-old grandmother is taking Bullhead City, Arizona to court over her arrest earlier this year for feeding the homeless community at a local public park.
They arrested a 78-year-old grandmother?
For feeding the homeless?
In March, Thornton was stopped by police and arrested, charged with violating a local ordinance that makes it illegal to share prepared food in the public park for charitable purposes without a permit. The Institute of Justice released the body camera footage of the woman's arrest. In it, a police officer is clearly resistant to arresting the Arizona grandmother in a call with his supervisor.
Okay, well, I'm going to call my higher-ups and figure out how we're going to handle this, okay?
Color front and back. Come see Aaron.
Okay, so I've made contact with the lady and the gentleman that was here. I went up and talked to her. I said, what are you doing? She goes, I'm just bringing the transients some food. They're hungry.
Yeah, so I just got a very... I'm not on speakerphone, right?
Yeah, you are. I'll take you off.
Wait, did that supervisor just say something suspicious?
Sure sounds like it to me.
Can we see that again?
Yeah, so I just got a very... I'm not on speakerphone, right?
Yeah, you are. I'll take you off.
I just got a very angry phone call from a rich guy? Very big directive from on high? Very urgent call from the mayor. Whatever this adjective is modifying, we don't know what it is.
Clearly, he did not want it recorded on the body cam footage. That's a red flag in my book.
Indeed.
Prosecutors eventually dropped her misdemeanor charge, but Thornton's legal team wants to see the ordinance dropped altogether. For now, Thornton is still feeding the area's hungry at a temporary site in a private alleyway near a local business, though that area has no shade or rest areas for people to sit, eat, and wash up. Finally, in honor of the just completed season of Samhain.
This is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
A crafty dad transformed his family's home in England with an epic Halloween decoration, all handmade, including a lifelike giant spider, all to raise cash for charity.
Now that's a treat.
No tricks, right?
Right. Kieran King packed the outside of the house with massive spiders, demons, and webs to create the ultimate spooky and memorable experience. The idea to raise money for charity came last Halloween when people started offering money after visiting the display in Gillingham, Kent. Last year, the family raised $3,100 in 3 days for the local children's hospice called Demelza. This year, free of COVID fears, the staff brought out some of the children from Demelza to visit the spooky house. Prior to Halloween weekend, the site had already raised some £600. Mr. King is already thinking about the next gruesome surprise he can come up with for next year and is open to suggestions.
How about a collection of this year's PMs?
Nah, I'm thinking a life-size animatronic Arthur Fairview would do it.
Ooh, I like that.
It's been 665 days since the January 6th attack on the Capitol, and our democracy and failed former President Trump has still not been indicted or charged with anything. This has been But Frankly Pierce News. Thanks for watching. I'm Arthur Fairview. Everyone in the United States of America, we're going to win this one, take the country by storm. We're going to be elected. You and me together, young and strong, we're going to be elected. Respected, selected, call collected. I want to be elected.
And